everyone. Thank you and welcome back to my channel. It's Claudia for those who are new around here. I just wanted to take you along today as I completed a few chores in the garden. You know, gardening for me is a year-round experience. We don't really stay cold enough during the day for our ground to really freeze. And so as you can tell by the dirt that I'm working with, the soil is very pliable. And so I'm planting bulbs, I'm cleaning the yard, I'm pruning back certain things, I'm leaving certain things for the birds, but just busy nonetheless. Not as busy as the summertime, but I like to putter in the yard here. The first project we're going to be working on today is cleaning up this urn and planting some bulbs that I bought at Lowe's recently. I came across this package of bulbs and it reminded me of my favorite aunt, so I thought that I would plant them in this urn and have a beautiful display in the spring. It's a package that consists of peach and orange colored bulbs, gypsy queen, hyacinths, as well as different tulips and daffodils. As I was going into the urn to plant these, I came across some bulbs from last year that actually survived the summer and are actually sprouting. So what I did is I just planted those with it because most of them were muscari from last season. So I think that nice purpley blue will play nicely with that peachy color and will make for a pretty spring display. I am also going to be adding some bulb tone, which is a starter fertilizer for bulbs, and hopefully it helps us have a better display in the spring. Now I'm being very random in how I plant these bulbs because I want everything to be intermingled, and so I'm just setting them down at different places and then working them down in the soil. I'm going to cover them over when I'm done with some more soil and leave it until spring. Now, spring for us comes early. By February, by end of February, we are having daffodils blooming and the tulips will begin to poke their heads up. So we're a month to 2 months ahead of some places in the country, sometimes 3 months, just because of our geographic location. Now, again, I garden in Georgia in Zone 7B, and I am in Southwest Georgia, about 3.5 hours from the Pensacola, Georgia, Florida line. So not very far at all. And it's very warm here. So I like to clean as I go so that when I'm done, I don't have this huge chore to do. Here I am adding the bulb tone. And what I find is that it helps you to have a more glorious display of blooms. So I use it. This is not an affiliation by any means, but when I find a good product, I like to talk about it so that others can try it too. All right, I'm working it into the soil a little bit, and then I'm going to go and get some more soil. My husband has stockpiles of good quality garden soil that over time he has mixed and made. And so when I need a scoop or two, I just go grab it from 3 different places in the yard. So see, look at how nice and black and pretty that dirt is. Yeah, so this is one project I can check off the list of things to do today. The next project that we're going to tackle is planting of 2 of these arborvitaes. They are amber gold, Thuja occidentalis, amber gold, and they are hardy down to -30. What's nice about them is they get about 12 feet to 15 feet tall, but only about 3 feet wide. So it's perfect for this spot right here. I felt like it needed a bit of an evergreen, but I didn't want the typical just dark green. I wanted something with yellow tinge to it because of the other shrubs that are in this bed. I also went to get my biotone, which is in that bucket. It's just easier for me to move it around the garden. And biotone is an all-purpose starter fertilizer, again from Espoma Organics. I like their fertilizers because one, they're organic, but two, I've had good results. I'm just digging a hole to fit the arborvitae and came across one of these cursed weeds. They send out these big tubers and they are hard to remove. As you can see from the soil of using leaves again to mulch, I have just built up the soil over time and it's beautiful, nice, loamy soil. So if you're not using your leaves in your garden, you're missing out. Perhaps you don't want to leave them whole like I do, but you can, shred them and put them in your garden. I promise you, you'll see within a year or two drastic difference in your plants and shrubs. Remember, out in the forest, the trees are mulched with the leaves from the trees. Nobody's cleaning the forest floor. The forest floor is kept with the leaves to provide nutrition back to those trees. These shrubs, I bought two of the same thing and we'll be planting another one on the side of the house on the other side of the yard. I'm trying to create winter interest by adding different evergreens and different color evergreens at that, because you always have your standard dark green and then you have blue, and there's even purple and orange and red in your conifers, your arborvitaes, and so I'm looking forward to adding more just for contrast. After I dug the hole, I recognized that the hole was just not quite large enough, so I went back and made it a bit bigger. Here I am roughing up the roots a little bit because although the pot was not root bound, the roots were sticking very tightly to the root ball, and so I loosened it up some to allow it to have a good chance at spreading its roots and taking off. Typically, arborvitaes are not fast growers, but I think this is a medium grower here. This may not look to be straight, but this garden bed is on a slope. It slopes down towards the creek, and so therefore that's why it looks crooked, but it's not. I'm putting my gloves on in order to add the fertilizer because I did not want my hands to smell like fertilizer. Besides, when you're working with any chemical, regardless if it's organic or not, you want to have a barrier between yourself and that chemical. So I put my glove on, added the fertilizer to the hole, and then went ahead and filled the hole in. And I went back later and gave everything a nice drink so that it would have water enough to make it until we get rain later this week. This arborvitae is just one of the many I plan to add over the next couple of years. I have my eyes on a weeping spruce, blue spruce, and then I want a dwarf Alberta spruce, another blue one, because I now have several of the yellow gold arborvitaes, cypresses. I have Japanese cedar, so I have different evergreens, and I plan to add more just because they add so much color in the garden. As I said before, I like to clean as I go so that I have less work to do later. Here I am packing everything up, and then I am going to go to the other side of the yard and plant the other one. My camera died. My camera died. And so I put it to charge and continued to work. I cleaned up this bed, neatened up the edge here, and cut back this lantana that was right here. That is the mishap lantana. I'll insert some video showing how big this thing is. And I cut it back basically to ground level, maybe about 6 inches, 8 inches off the ground every year. And it grows to about 6 by 8. I also cleaned up this flower bed here. Granted, there's some things like the shrubbery will be pruned in the spring, but I cleaned out all the dead foliage from the canna lilies and from gladiolas and penstemon and things like that. Gora that the frost zapped. And now it's looking better. Yes, there are a lot of leaves, which I leave the leaves in the flower bed to mulch. And it does a great job. It builds up the soil. My soil is nice and rich and thick and black. And it's free from these 3 trees that are right here. I get all the mulch I need for this bed, and it's compatriot right there. I also planted this amber gold arborvitae. That's right there. Next to the amber gold arborvitae is a pink spirea right here. And to the left is a strawberry and vanilla hydrangea. So those two pinks will play off each other, and the golden green to the back will be a nice contrast. In the front, I have my irises ready, and of course, in the spring, I'll be cutting back the roses as well as my panicle hydrangeas that are in this bed. One of the projects we have coming up fairly soon is to move my husband's shed, which is where most of our tools are kept. It's going to be moved right here behind this flower bed where this pile of wood is on the ground. And then we're going to be adding a lean-to to it. 8 by 8, I believe, is the dimension we came up with to allow for us to park the riding mower and my husband's new piece of equipment that he will be getting soon. He has been approved for something called an action track chair, and it is quite an expensive piece of equipment, but it'll allow him to go anywhere in the yard because it has bulldozer type wheels, and depending on the model he is approved for, he will be could potentially be able to stand with that piece of equipment because it'll stand him and support him so that he can continue his work in our orchard. One good thing about this shed being moved is that we'll be able to see the orchard, which is right back here. But right now you really can't see because this is his ramp and there's just not a clear pathway. So moving it there. I also have a fringe tree that I'm going to plant behind this shed so that there will be a pretty white fringe tree blooming in the springtime, and I think that will be nice. I have another fringe tree, and I'm going to be planting that on the driveway, going up the driveway in the next week. I have, like I said, different projects that I'm working on, and each day I just chip away on my list, move things around, prune things back, clean up the beds as well as I can, and then go from there. Thank you so much for gardening with me today. If you've enjoyed my content, please consider subscribing. Until next time, talk to you.